welcome to Fundamentals of Cybersecurity, CSCI150N. My name is Peter Kirk. I'm your instructor. This is Chapter 4, the role of people in security. In this chapter, you will learn how to define basic terminology associated with social engineering, describe steps organizations can take to improve their security, describe common user actions that may put an organization's information at risk, recognize methods attackers may use to gain information about an organization, determine ways in which users can aid instead of detract from security, and recognize the role training and awareness plays in assisting the people's side of security. In this chapter, we'll look at people as both a security problem and a security tool. The truth is, the absolute protection of a computer system or network is not possible, and that we need to be prepared to detect and respond to attacks that are able to circumvent our security mechanisms. Technology alone will not solve the security problem. No matter how advanced the technology is, it will ultimately be deployed in an environment where humans exist. It is the human element that poses the biggest security challenge. It's hard to compensate for all the possible ways that a human can deliberately or accidentally cause security problems or circumvent our security mechanisms. So, for example, we have seen people who try to get around the filtering of websites on a firewall by using a proxy. So they'll go through the firewall to a proxy website. It looks like normal web traffic, usually encrypted with SSL. And so we don't know necessarily what sites they're going to once they go to that proxy. But they're opening up our network to risk by doing so. So ultimately, people are our weakest link. Social engineering is the process of convincing an authorized individual to provide confidential information or access to an unauthorized individual. It is a technique that's used in which an attacker uses various deceptive practices to convince the targeted person to divulge information they normally would not divulge, or to convince the target of the attack to do something that they normally would not do. So things that they might get that might qualify for social engineering are things like obtaining insider information, phishing, farming, vishing, spam, shoulder surfing, reverse social engineering, and hoaxes. So things like phishing. Phishing, we get that all the time. That's the emails that's trying to make it look like it's Bank of America or whoever and get you to click on a link. Farming is going out and actually setting up a website that looks like the actual place that it's mimicking. So it might look like Bank of America to get you to enter in your username and password and record that information. Phishing is like phishing, but using voice over IP phones. So they use the SIP protocol to send phone calls, and they might modify it so that the phone ID on the phone says that they're calling from one place, but in reality they're calling from some back office in some foreign country that has nothing to do with who they're pretending to be. Spam, as you know, is basically just a lot of advertising email, usually for stuff that's no good. It's all junk. It's more often than not scams. Shoulder surfing is somebody looking over your shoulder or using some kind of technique to observe what you're doing. Reverse social engineering is getting you to try to access their website, trying to get you to access their website. For them to manipulate you. And hoaxes are fake news or activities to convince you that something has happened. Now, something the book does not touch on for social engineering, but I want to kind of bring in here, is something I've seen a couple of workshops on called 6 Principles of Persuasion. And when you learn what these are, you'll see that you've probably have seen these when you've gone to buy a car or some expensive high-ticket items, because they actually train salesmen to use these principles of persuasion to get you to do things. And it's the same thing with social engineering. They use the same techniques. So the first is the principle of reciprocity, and according to this principle, human relations tend to be reciprocal. People tend to treat each other in the same way that they are being treated. So if an individual is treated with respect and cordially, he is responsible. He'll respond the same way. Also, if he receives a gift or a benefit, he will feel that the need to correspond in the same way. This principle also works to bring closeness. If we tell someone something secret or intimate, that person is more likely to tell us something secret or intimate. The principle of scarcity. The scarcity principle states that that we are more interested in acquiring things if we think that they are unique or difficult to get. This is why we value limited editions of artwork or the opportunity to meet a very important or sought-after person. Advertisers use this principle when we create the limited time only offer or while stocks last or invitation only services. Then there's the last one left, the last car, the last stereo, or whatever. Then there's principle of authority. We are more predisposed to be influenced when we are addressed by an authority. This principle is not related to the exercise of power or coercion, but the credibility or the status that authorities have. We tend to think that those who are in a hierarchy have more knowledge, experience, or more right to give an opinion. The principle of authority applies when public figures influence public opinion. Sometimes to make an idea or a product be accepted by a massive audience, we only have to convince a small group of experts in the area that is the right thing. And that those experts present the authority that convince everyone else to accept it afterwards. Celebrities are a big influencer. People like position of authority, like police officers. We've seen it where high-ranking military officers, their names are attached to things, trying to convince people to do something that they probably shouldn't be doing otherwise. Next is the principle of commitment and consistency. According to this principle, people will be much more likely to accept something if the offer is in line with the assumptions or statements that they themselves have made before in front of the people who are making the offer. So, for example, if you get a phone call from somebody and they convince you to somehow give the phone number for an employee at your organization, they're more likely to call you back knowing that they've gotten that one piece of information out of you. You're more likely to continue to keep doing it to be consistent. So they'll say, "Hi, this is Bob again. You gave me this information. You know what? I didn't get them at that number. Can you give me the number for their weekend home, or give me the number for their aunt, whoever, because I really need to get a hold of them for this reason." So they'll get you to. They'll take advantage of the fact that you are more likely to continue to do what you have previously done. Then there's the principle of social proof. Social proof, also called consensus, states that we tend to adapt our ideas to the majority opinion. We are more likely to accept something if others around us have already accepted it, and we are more likely to reject it if others have rejected it. So therefore, if you get a phone call from somebody and say, "Yeah, I just recently spoke to such and such over in this department, and they were able to help me this much for it, but they told me to talk to you," you're more likely to give in because you believe somebody else has already helped them and give them more sensitive information than you probably should. Then finally, there's the principle of liking, and this is pretty straightforward. This is they get you to like them, become comfortable with them, let the guard down, and once that's so, you're more likely to give out information simply because you consider them a friend. So the book talks about the operational model of computer security. That is, protection equals prevention plus detection plus response. Prevention is using things such as access controls, firewalls, and encryption to protect the system before something happens. Detection is how do you go about determining that something has happened, either as it's happening or a period of time following whatever the incident was. So there's things such as audit logs, intrusion detection systems, and honeypots. And then how do you respond to an incident? The reality is that almost every corporation or any other organization at some point or another is going to have some kind of a security incident. So how do you respond to it? What kind of backups do you have? Do you have an incident response team? Do you have people who are trained in computer forensics? Things of that sort. People can be a security problem simply because of poor security practices. As a matter of fact, poor security practices account for a significant portion of human-created security problems. These poor practices may be those of an individual who is not following established security policies or processes, or they may have been caused by a lack of security policies within the organization or procedures, or poor training for the users. So, for example, password selection. Choosing a password that's of the right length with a mix of characters is extremely important. And if you need modern headlines to show that to you, just look at the email hacks from John Podesta before the election. Regardless of what your political opinions are, that hack probably would never have been made available or public had it not been for the fact that he had chosen a very poor password, being the word password, for his email account, and thus opening up his entire email for scrutiny. Then there's shoulder surfing. That's looking over people's shoulders or situating yourself in such a way that you can observe what they're doing to gather information in order to manipulate them. Then there's piggybacking, which is coming in through, let's say, a turnstile or a security door, following behind somebody who has authorized access. Dumpster diving is as it sounds, jumping into a dumpster or trash, looking for documents or information, disks or whatever that might have sensitive information you can use. Unauthorized hardware and software, that's installing programs or physical devices onto a network that are not authorized by the organization for whatever your reason, be it just for your convenience or you're looking to do harm. Data handling, how you properly handle or don't properly handle the data within the organization. Physical access by non-employees. What space within your organization's building do non-employees have access to? And then clean desk policies. What are people allowed to keep on their desks when they're not there versus what is the policy on where sensitive information should be when an employee is not present? I'm your instructor, Peter Keurig for Nashville Community College. Thank you for watching.